Hello, I'm astrologer coach Sonja Francis, and today we're going to be talking about the upcoming new moon, which will be exact on September 2nd at 9:56 p.m. New York time and 2:56 a.m. London time on September 3rd, so after midnight already. And the moon will align with the sun in 11 degrees of Virgo, which is the beginning of the new moon cycle. And we start to feel the effects of this new moon the moment the moon enters Virgo on around midnight between September 1st and September 2nd, right around midnight. And feel free to also use the timestamps below this video that are available, so you can jump to different parts of the video if you're more interested in one thing or another. And since all new moons are an opportune time to set intentions for this coming 28 days, stay tuned until later in the video when we discuss the best and most potent time to set our new moon intentions for this lunar cycle. Now, with this new moon, we also enter eclipse season. And this is a pretty big deal. The eclipse season will last until October 24th. It's a pretty long time. And we will have a lunar eclipse on September 17th and a solar eclipse on October 2nd. And eclipses only happen twice a year, and they ask us to recalibrate on the physical, mental, and emotional level, which gives us a chance to move to the next level of our own evolution, personally speaking and collectively speaking. Now, the last eclipse season we had was in late March, early April. So that was also a time frame where we were recalibrating ourselves. And so during eclipse season, it's really a great idea to stay flexible, to think outside the box, and to do a lot of self-care. That's really critical during eclipse season, doing a lot of self-care, because there's a lot of energy downloads that we're receiving, a lot of recalibration that's happening. And so self-care is going to be really, really important for that time frame. Now, anything brand new, and I mean brand new, that starts during eclipse season will likely not pan out the way we thought it would, often because there's some important information that's missing while we're making these decisions, and we get to understand what the whole picture is usually after the full moon that follows the last eclipse. So that's why this eclipse cycle is so long. That's why it lasts until October 24th. So if you have anything that you want to get started with, do it before eclipse season begins, or defer any major or brand new projects until after October 24th, when eclipse season is over. The only exception would be if something that's beginning or ending is happening organically. So if something happens without you doing anything to it or about it, it's just occurring that way, then that's actually something that needs to happen during that time that supports your evolution. So allow that to happen. And if you would like to learn more about the upcoming eclipses and how they might impact you personally, then please feel free to join us for our next forecasting forum on September 18th at 1 p.m. New York time. We will talk about eclipses in detail. There is an early bird special available until September 16th at midnight New York time. So feel free to take advantage of that. And if you're not currently a star member already, if you are a universal member on my site, then you do get a 10% discount for all of my forums at any time. Star members are automatically registered, as most of you know. And yeah, if you want to become a member on my site, feel free to check that out. First month of the universal membership is currently free. Now, this new moon has a lot going on. So let me just kind of give you a couple of highlights of what's happening here. It has a lot of aspects involving the outer planets. And this signifies an invitation to collectively shift our consciousness. So the planets are aligned right now to support us with this collective shift. And we are definitely urged to work with these powerful energies for the benefit of ourselves and everyone else that we encounter or deal with. So all of those outer planets are also currently in their retrograde motion, and that is inviting us to focus on making inner shifts and realigning ourselves with what no longer serves us. So there's an inner process that needs to happen with this next new moon cycle. And then also all three of these outer planets are also exalted for various reasons. So triple whammy, which means that their energies are much louder right now. So we're feeling these energies internally much louder. Now, Uranus, which is one of those outer planets, is the very loudest out of the three, urging us to redefine our connection to the physical world and our sense of self-worth. And Neptune, which is another one of the outer planets, is asking us to trust our inner guidance and connection to source energy, which is always comes from our heart space, our heart energy. And then finally, Pluto, which is also an outer planet, and that's asking us to reclaim our power and live with purpose and with passion in our lives. And the other thing that's also happening with this new moon chart is that the sun and moon in Virgo are part of a T-square that involves a Saturn Jupiter square. And Saturn and Jupiter, they are social planets that are linked to our social and economic contracts, agreements, and dynamics. So there's something that we're definitely undergoing on a social level as well, economically speaking. And then we also, of course, need to talk about Mercury, which is the messenger, which is the ruler of Virgo. And so the ruler of the sign that is connected to the new moon is also a very important planet in the new moon chart, is also exalted, another exalted planet. And it's quite involved in this new moon chart as well with a lot of aspects. So I will talk more about all of this in connection with the planetary aspects of the new moon chart. But first, let's take a look at the Virgo energy of this new moon. Virgo provides an opportunity to learn about being of service and what it might mean to strengthen our focus on improving our daily routines. Getting more organized, for example, or taking care of health matters, having a healthy body, a healthy mind. Then the highest vibration of Virgo is observation, discernment, and analysis from a neutral standpoint so that we can determine what works and what doesn't work. It's almost like you have to imagine Virgo is a little bit like the scientist who looks through the magnifying glass to observe how some of the things are interacting with each other, like some of the atoms or molecules that they're looking at, right? But they're doing it in a very neutral, observant way. They're just sort of like looking at it and taking notes. So that's kind of what Virgo really represents. So ask yourself with that Virgo energy, could I release judgment from my life, starting with self-judgment? Could I release judgment from my life, starting with self-judgment? And could I instead take a deep breath and discern what works and what doesn't work? And what might that look like if I stayed completely neutral as I'm doing this? So with these coaching questions, for those of you who are new to my videos, feel free to journal on them, meditate with them, share them in a group setting, and brainstorm with other people on them and see what shows up, what comes up intuitively. These questions are not there for you to answer them necessarily with your conditioned mind in terms of like having an answer, but it's really more about investigating and aligning ourselves with these energies, and to see what comes up, what we already know in connection with this. Now, if you want to read more about the Virgo energy, feel free to read my New Moon in Virgo article. The whole article is available to all my members on my website. And the partial article is available to the general public. But right now you can get the first month of my universal membership for free. So you could get access to the whole article as well if you want to work with the coaching questions and have those in writing. You can use the coupon code UNIVERSAL at checkout when you add the monthly universal membership to your cart. Now let's take a look at some of the aspects of this new moon chart. All planetary aspects call for integrating the energies involved, and the tighter an aspect is, the closer the planets are in terms of the degrees, the stronger is the message. Now, this new moon chart, the reason why I'm mentioning it is because this new moon chart has a multitude of tight aspects. So let's start with the chart ruler. We said the chart ruler was Mercury. And we also know Mercury is exalted right now, and it is currently in Leo. Even though it rules Virgo, right now it's journeying through Leo. It makes a trine to Chiron in Aries, a very tight trine. And this is a chance for active healing. And if we choose to do that healing, we can bring compassion both for ourselves and other people to communications that possibly trigger us. Anything that we hear, anything that someone says, anything that we're saying that someone else is hearing, like us getting triggered, somebody else getting triggered. We can learn how to heal these triggers through compassion and understanding. Now, ask yourself with this trine, could I allow myself and others to be human? And what if I talked about my flaws, my idiosyncrasies, and my insecurities? How might this support my healing process? And how might that support someone else's healing process if they could hear me? Now, the exalted Mercury also makes a square to an exalted Uranus in Taurus, which is one of those outer planets. And it also sextiles Jupiter in Gemini, one of the social planets. Now, the square to Uranus asks us to expect the unexpected and to maybe even plan for disruptions, maybe revelations or maybe breakthroughs. For the next 4 weeks, it is a really good idea to keep an open mind. That's really the best approach that we can take for the next 4 weeks. Keep an open mind. And as best as you can, go with the flow. Stay as open to the new and unexpectedly different as you can possibly muster, and ask yourself, could I allow whatever is happening to stimulate new approaches in my life? And could I allow for my heart to open and my breath to guide me? Some very powerful questions. Feel free to work with those. And then for more details about this aspect, please read my weekly forecast post from July 21st, August 18th, or September 6th. This aspect is happening 3 times within that time period because of Mercury's retrograde phase that we just had in August. So any of these dates, if you want to click in the weekly forecast for any of these dates, these posts are available to all my members. And again, right now also the first month of the universal membership is free if you want to take a look at this aspect in more detail. Now, Mercury sextile to Jupiter, that gives us the opportunity to share what's important to us from a place of open-mindedness and excitement. Now, some other close aspects are Pluto sextile to Neptune in Pisces. They're both in exactly the same degree. And the quincunxes to Mars in Gemini that Pluto is making, that's also almost in exactly the same degree. And so these are very powerful aspects. The ongoing sextile between Pluto and Neptune, that has been influencing all of us since the early 40s. This has been sort of like an on and off again aspect. And this current alignment involving Pluto in Capricorn and Neptune in Pisces, because they've been moving through different signs over, the last decades. The current one involving Capricorn and Pisces encourages us to let go of our fears about our place in the world and our accomplishments. And it really offers us a chance to rely on our intuition and open our hearts as we pursue our soul purpose. It's really an opportunity to have more of a trusting relationship with ourselves and with life. Now, what you want to ask yourself here is, what might transpire if I granted 5% more compassion and acceptance to my inner and outer long-term processes? And what might become manifest if I were present to all the energies inside me and around me? And then we have Pluto's quincunx to Mars as well, and that requires an inner awareness in order to see what needs adjusting. And if we are able to reevaluate our impulsive need for information, and also this impulsiveness that we have around our inner dialogue, constantly, the mind just constantly goes blah, 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 blah. We will see whether or not they are really supporting our long-term goals. Does my inner dialogue support my long-term goals? Does the information that I'm constantly being bombarded with, or that's constantly coming through, whether that's via email or via the news or via conversations that I'm having or things that I'm sharing, all that processing of information, is that really serving my long-term goals? So ask yourself, could I go deeper rather than faster? That's really powerful. Pluto wants to go deeper, right? Mars wants to go faster. And what if I decided right here, right now, to think long term? With everything that I do, how would that, if you read something, for example, how does that impact me long term? That I'm doing this right now, that I'm allowing this information to come through. Or if you're just having an inner dialogue, that you're noticing your inner dialogue, does that inner dialogue serve me long term? Now, Pluto also trines Uranus in Taurus and squares Chiron in Aries. And the trine to the exalted Uranus, which is the energy of innovation, unconventionality, and breakthroughs, that gives us an opportunity to bring an innovative approach to building our long-term goals. So you can ask yourself, what might an unconventional approach make possible for me and other people? And what am I ready to innovate or change about my body, about my values, and how I perceive my self-value? And how could I work 5% smarter rather than 1% harder? And that's a good one to maybe journal on, see what comes up over the next 28 days. Really give yourself time with that one, because that's a good one to ask every day. How can I work 5% smarter rather than 1% harder? And then we're also invited to focus on what we actually have control over. Pluto also has a lot to do with, where do we have control or where do we feel out of control? So surrender any fears about the outside world and its structures, its rules, or its regulations, and all those things that we do not have control over. It's always good to focus on what we actually have control over rather than on things that we don't. Because when we focus on things that we don't have control over to begin with, we tend to feel out of control, and that creates more fear. And who needs more fear, right? We certainly don't need more fear in the world. Now, the other aspect is between Pluto and Chiron, which is a square. And this is asking us to stretch and grow, like all squares do, and to pay attention to the wounded masculine within us. And this journey is also part of a larger soul agenda, which impacts the collective and the individual. And when our masculine side is balanced with our feminine side, and this has nothing to do with gender, this is just to do with each person has a masculine and a feminine side. And if we can get that to be balanced, we express our power much more responsibly, and we have much better boundaries as well. We're going to be neither too domineering with others, which is a strong masculine, or we're also not going to be denying our feelings and desires, right? Which is a sort of like a weak feminine. And with a balanced masculine, we are also more capable of showing compassion, because the feminine comes from the heart. The masculine is all about directing that energy, directing our energy, focusing it towards something to achieve something. And so when we're coming from the heart, it's much easier to show compassion. So ask yourself, what might change for myself and others if I brought 5% more compassion and kindness to myself when feeling insecure or ashamed? These are feelings that very often have us shut down. We tend to not want to be with feeling insecure and ashamed. So what we do as a protective mechanism often is we shut ourselves down. We sort of like push it away, or we ignore that that's there. We pretend that we're not insecure, that we're not ashamed. However, if we can just bring a tiny bit of compassion and kindness to ourselves when these feelings show up, that could empower us so greatly, and it could empower other people as well. Live by example. And what would support a healthier balance of my feminine, masculine energies? How can I get there? How can I have that healthy balance between those two energies? If you are someone who is very strongly heart-centered already and is very much in their feminine already, how can you integrate more of that masculine energy, which is more assertive, a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more going after things, standing up for yourself? How can you integrate and balance your feminine out with that masculine energy? And if you already have a strong masculine that's quite assertive and that's quite going after stuff, how can you bring in more of that feminine that's a little bit gentler, kinder, more open, more allowing, more giving space to things? Now, some other tight aspects, so you can see multiple tight aspects here, are Neptune and Mars. They square each other. And then Neptune also sextiles Uranus in Taurus. Now, the square to Mars asks us to stretch ourselves, like all squares do. And then doing what we have always done may no longer work for us with that square. We may want to engage with something that stirs our imagination, that helps us do things in a way that we feel inspired to do something. So ask yourself here, how do I use my mental energies? Am I exhausting myself? Do I feel overwhelmed because of engaging with information or learning or exchanging information or sharing so much? Am I exhausting myself? Do I feel overwhelmed? Am I taking breaks? And could I allow myself to just tune in? To just stop for a moment and tune in, take a break, take a deep breath, and just tune in. Now, we might also feel scattered over the next 4 weeks with that square. So should you observe that for yourself, just ask yourself, what if rushing was not the best answer? And what might happen if I slowed down and listened to my intuition for just a moment, instead of heedlessly zooming ahead and going, whee, let's go, another article, another book, another this or that, another conversation. That's what Mars in Gemini wants to do. So we need to really, can we slow down? Can we just be present? Now, Neptune sextile to an exalted Uranus provides an opportunity to link our divine connection to life with novel ideas around something that is in alignment with what we value. So what you can ask yourself here is, what is my unique value? And how could I tune into that gently and consistently? And what if the whole universe was intelligent? What if that included every cell in my body? And just imagine that, just imagine every cell in your body being intelligent and every cell in your body sort of like having value, every single one. How would you then treat yourself? How would you treat your body? How would you listen to your body differently if every cell had intelligence? This is just something to meditate on or journal on. And then we have another aspect here that's also very tight. Venus in Libra aligns with the South Node and opposes the North Node in Aries. And when a planet aligns with the South Node, we are invited to release or redefine something that is draining our life force. And in this case, because it's Venus, it's related to our sense of self-worth within our various one-on-one relationships. How do we value ourselves when we're with other people? So ask yourself, am I able to be fully myself when interacting with others? And do I hold back my authentic self to appease others? And just for right now, could I let go of codependent behaviors? Meaning that I am behaving in such a way that I'm only okay if somebody else is okay. And how might I find a better balance between my inner feminine and my masculine energies? So there it is again, full circle. Chiron in Aries is inviting us to balance that feminine masculine. And so is the Venus in Libra on the South Node, balancing this feminine masculine energies. So we're invited to do this in a lot of ways right now. This is something we need to learn right now as a collective and individually speaking. So last but not least, we have one more thing that we need to talk about, which is the ongoing square between Saturn and Jupiter, which created a T-square in the most recent full moon chart with Venus in Virgo. That was 2 weeks ago. And this time we will experience a very similar T-square with the new moon in Virgo. So Venus has been replaced by the new moon. It's also now making that same T-square. Now, T-squares in mutable signs, they call for flexibility and adaptability, and they signal a period of transition. So something's changing. Now, Saturn in Pisces has the most influence in this T-square due to its longer orbit, because it's the slower moving planet out of all the planets involved in this T-square. And so that encourages us to make decisions based on love rather than fear, and to carefully consider the outcome of our actions and choices, even when we choose inaction or decline to choose anything at all. So we're asked to reassess our interconnectivity with all of life and our ability to be present in the here and now. Or, if we're not able to be present in the here and now, we need to sort of look at that as well and acknowledge that. Now, the empty leg, which is the solution point of a T-square, is Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is asking us to check our perspectives, our assumptions and beliefs. So ask yourself, where am I underestimating myself or other people? And where might I be overestimating myself or others? And where do I need to be more discerning or more compassionate? So, to sum it all up for this new moon, the message of this moon is loud and clear. It emphasizes the importance of letting go of self-criticism and to focus on connection rather than separation. For the next 28 days, integrate body, heart, mind, and soul. Be mindful. Dedicate yourself to what's essential with compassion in your heart. And remember, perfection is not a goal. It's a journey. And in times of change, which we are currently in, things are changing quite drastically in this world. In times of change, it helps to keep the bigger picture in mind. What is the bigger picture? To not get too fixated on the details, on, focusing in on what's here right now, but to just see how is that impacting the bigger picture. So if you have an ascendant or personal planets in 9 to 13 degrees of Virgo, Pisces, Gemini, or Sagittarius, then you will feel the impact of this new moon more strongly than other people. However, even if you don't have any personal planets or points in those degrees and signs, you can take a look in your birth chart. You can take a look, where does 11 degrees of Virgo land in my birth chart? And if you don't know how to look that up in your birth chart, if you're very new to astrology, feel free to watch my free class, How to Read My Birth Chart. That's a 30-minute webinar that is available on my website. If you go to astrologercoach.com, to the homepage, and you scroll down to a window that says free class, and you just click on that, it will give you access to that class. And it will also it will show you in that class also how to print out your own birth chart. Now, last but definitely not least, the new moon is also the best time to set powerful intentions for this moon's moon cycle. Intentions are best done soon after the new moon becomes exact, and definitely not during a moon ward, of course, phase. So this month, the best and most potent time to set intentions would be between 9:56 p.m. on September 2nd until 9:56 p.m. on September 4th, New York time. The only exception will be a very brief moon ward, of course, for 6 minutes between 12:06 and 12:12 p.m. New York time on September 4th. So it's a very, very brief time. If you live in a time zone other than East Coast time in the US, feel free to join my Facebook fan page or follow me on Instagram or X or Twitter, formerly known as Twitter. I will be posting reminders on September 2nd in the evening, September 3rd and 4th throughout the day to let you know when it's a good time to set your new moon intentions. And for more information about setting new moon intentions, if you've never done it before, check out my article on my website. There will be a link below this video that will guide you there. And in general, below this video, there will be a bunch of links that will be below this video that will help you connect to what I've been mentioning throughout the video. So that's available. And then, have a fantastic new moon. If you are a member, I will see you again in about 2 weeks for the full moon video to see how far we've come since setting new moon intentions. And if you're not yet a member of my online community, I will either connect with you on September 18th for my next forecasting forum, or you can also join me on September 27th for my next Solidity Today radio show podcast, which again, there will be a link below this video for that. And if you don't want to join me for any of those things, I will see you in about 4 weeks for my next new moon video here on YouTube. Feel free to like my videos, like my channel. That always helps. And much love. Have as best as you can. Take really good care of your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being. All right. Have a good one. I'm astrologer coach Sonja Francis. Goodbye.